Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 196 of Tech It Out. Hope you're all doing great on this mid-May weekend. And we do have a great Tech It Out show planned for you this hour with all three topics and guests tied to protecting you online. We're going to talk with NordVPN in a moment. We'll kick the show off with them about why you should be browsing the web with a virtual private network or VPN and how they're not all created equal. After that, we'll be joined by DeleteMe and how they help you stay safe on the internet. And finally, we'll learn about Stash Password Manager. That's both an app and a physical device option, if you like, to keep you protected while you spend time online. Love it when the stars align and all three topics and guests all seem to gel into one cohesive theme. Awesome. All of this and more on a brand new Tech It Out powered by ASUS, which I'll tell you more about shortly. But let's officially kick off the show with our first interview. Not all VPNs are created equal. Sure, you might use one of those virtual private networks or VPNs as they can help you remain anonymous when you're spending time online, but they may not be as private as you may think. Ironically, they can, with some companies, collect data about you and what you're doing. And so we're now going to learn about NordVPN, one of the most popular VPNs, and what makes them unique. Joining us on the line to chat is Laura Tyrell, Head of Public Relations at NordVPN. Welcome to the show, Laura. Good to chat with you.
Hi, happy to be here.
Now, before we talk about NordVPN and what makes you unique, what exactly is a virtual private network? Let's bring everybody up to speed on that phrase, that term.
Yeah, so virtual private network or a VPN is a service that protects your online connection and privacy. It might sound a bit complicated, so I have actually a simple example for you.
Sure.
So imagine that you are sending a very simple, old school paper postcard. And if you are sending this postcard without an envelope, your postman and sometimes even your neighbors perhaps can see the contents of this postcard. But if you are putting the same postcard into an envelope, it gets much more difficult to read it and just get what's on it. So this example reflects what a VPN is. If you are accessing the internet without a VPN, it's the same as sending a very personal postcard without an envelope. And if you are accessing the internet with a VPN, so it means your postcard is sealed in the envelope.
It's a great analogy. I like that.
Yeah, and as these days we're using internet for shopping, filling our taxes, getting our medical records, and all the other private and sensitive things. So imagine all this information on a postcard without an envelope. Perhaps you wouldn't like that.
And there's a lot of different parties that can access your information online if you don't have a VPN. It could be your internet service provider. They want to know where you're going. It could be the government. It could be advertisers. It could be the search engine like Google. It could be the browser company, which may not be the same as the search engine. And the list goes on, right? I mean, there's a lot of different eyes out there, not to mention hackers and scammers and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So there's a lot of VPN options out there. Why NordVPN?
I would say that one of the main reasons is that NordVPN is super easy to use. Years ago, VPNs were much more complicated and they were mainly used by tech-savvy people and IT professionals or some corporations. But here at NordVPN, we always believe that security and digital privacy is something that must be accessible for everyone, despite their cybersecurity and IT knowledge. And that's why we are trying to create and develop our apps as simple as possible. Even our slogan says security starts with a click. That's really that simple. And another part why NordVPN is, well, we have a lot of awesome additional features. For example, the one that I love the most is Dark Web Monitor. So if your data gets leaked somewhere on the web by any social media app or our service. We inform you about that and give tips on how to stay safe.
Good to know. And I also hinted off the top, Laura, in my introduction that some VPNs, ironically, while they say they are there to mask your online identity so you can browse safely, they also are collecting data about you, but not NordVPN, just to be clear.
Yeah, sure. We actually have a few no-log audits that were performed by one of the best auditing companies in the world. So we have a proof that we're not collecting any logs.
Just for those who haven't yet used a VPN, maybe we can just quickly walk through how it works. And I don't want to get too technical, but when you launch a VPN, whether it starts when your computer or your mobile device starts, or you choose to launch a VPN, ahead of time you choose what country you want to be from. And it could be like if you live in the US, you want to make it look like you're in the UK. If you're in the UK, you may want to look like you're in the US. And then your browsing is routed through that country.
Yeah. For example, if you are connected, as you mentioned, if you are in the US and you're connected to the server in the UK, so your ISP or anyone who is watching you, it seems for them that you are from that country and not where are actually located.
Okay. Now, you can use a VPN from within the same country you're in, but I guess a secondary benefit to using a VPN is if you want to access content in another country that has some sort of restrictions that you need to live there. But that's a side sort of story that we don't really need to explore right now, but that's correct as well, right?
Yeah, and a lot of our users actually do that. They choose servers that are located in their own countries because mainly we had a user survey and approximately 80% of our users choose VPN not to access the content, but primarily for security and privacy reasons.
All right. So earlier, Laura, I asked you why NordVPN, which is spelled, by the way, NordVPN, one word. I asked you why someone would consider NordVPN, but a similar question is, why do you think it's the most popular as well as the highest rated VPN out there? It's a very crowded space.
Well, actually, that's a fact. At the moment, NordVPN is one of the most trusted privacy and security providers. We even consider ourselves to be number one premium VPN provider in the world. And the whole team behind NordVPN is super proud that we're trusted not only by more than 40 million users, but as well by the most influential tech sites and IT security specialists. And as mentioned before, we are working hard to make our apps as user-friendly as possible, and we're adding many additional features. And by the way, talking about the features, I have a special secret for you. Nobody knows about that yet.
Okay.
A few months, we are releasing a new feature, and this new feature will add some of the antivirus functionality to our apps.
Oh, interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Laura. We're chatting with Laura Tyrell, Head of Public Relations at NordVPN. Have you seen an uptick in VPN usage now that so many of us are now working from home or schooling from home?
Oh, yes. With the pandemic, millions of people started spending much more time online. And with the rise of the cybercrime, which followed, the need for more protection is very important. During the first month of the pandemic, interest in VPNs grew by 600%. So that's quite a lot. It seems that this trend will continue in the future. And by the way, with the new work from home situation, we noticed another interesting trend that many people are switching their work and personal devices. So our research shows that approximately 46% of Americans and Canadians are using personal devices for work and work devices for personal use.
Yeah.
So this means that the attack surface is increasing, and that's why you need more protection.
I can understand that. Talk to us about the IOXT Alliance. In plain English, what is this and what's the significance of the IOXT Alliance?
So IOXT is abbreviation for Internet of Secure Things Alliance. That's a huge organization that is on a mission to create a very straightforward mechanism that will help consumers to make informed decisions if they are, for example, picking a VPN provider or even a smart light bulb for their home or a productivity security app, so it's kind of they unite all the internet things. We're super proud that just recently NordVPN's Android app was thoroughly tested and certified by IOXT. This is important because not all cybersecurity and digital privacy tools are created equal, as you mentioned at the beginning, and being certified by a qualified third party reflects that we invest in our product security and that we meet all requirements. Of course, all this allows users to easily identify trusted applications.
Again, they would look for the IOXT, like Internet of Things, but with an X in there for secure. Yeah. And then finally, how much does NordVPN cost? And what's the best way to start? Do you recommend downloading the app, going to the website first?
So actually, it's a perfect time at the moment to shop for your very first VPN app, as at the moment we have a final sale of our 2 years plan. So you can get it with 68% off. That's as low as $3.71 per month for Americans and for $1.60 for Canadian buyers. And the best way to start perhaps would be to visit our website, nordvpn.com, to check our features, get to the download page, and start using it.
All right, nordvpn.com. All right, Laura, thank you so much for your time. Laura Tyrell has been our guest from nordvpn.com. All the best. Thanks again. And thanks for letting us in on that little secret coming in a couple of months. Exciting stuff.
Thank you, Mark.
When we return on Tech It Out, we're going to learn all about DeleteMe. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out, everyone. This show is powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, and that includes its line of award-winning laptops and desktops, as well as accessories like monitors, keyboards, mice, and mobile devices like smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. When someone Googles you or your family, data brokers are selling your personal info, says DeleteMe, a company that says it can remove this data for you. Joining us on the line to explain what DeleteMe is all about and discuss its new features just added to the service, we're joined on the line by Rob Chevelle. He's co-founder and CEO of DeleteMe. Welcome to the show, Rob. Good to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
Before we talk about the new features of DeleteMe, Rob, let's first cover what it's all about. So again, it's called DeleteMe. Please give us the 411, if you will.
Yeah, well, I think what it's all about is actually much bigger than our service and much bigger than DeleteMe. And the problem is that the last 10 or 15 years of the internet has really been about taking as much of our data, and by our, I mean you and I and everybody else who uses the internet and who uses our mobile phones, and monetizing it in ways that we have no control over. And one of the most aggressive group that is doing this are what we call data brokers. And among them are websites like whitepages.com, mylife.com, spokio.com. And these guys buy and collect, scrape data about every American from anywhere they can get it and collate it into profiles about us, which have a ton of detail, typically more detail than we'd be comfortable sharing with our close friends and family. And they sell that to anybody. And I think that's the bigger picture, and that's the problem.
You know, even before they sell it to somebody, these aggregators, like recently I wrote an article for USA Today about ergonomic, and I was trying to find an ergonomist, an expert who worked at a hospital. I was able to find her pretty efficiently on her mobile phone, her age, how long she's been with the company and all that. And when I reached her and she was thankfully willing to do the interview, she was also a little concerned how easy it was for me to find her mobile phone and other information. So can you maybe talk to us about what DeleteMe does at a high level?
Sure. So, you know, whether it's this ergonomic expert or really any of us, the simplest way to find another person these days is, you know, I think we've all forgot, most of us that are my age or, you know, what I would call old, in quotation marks. We don't use phone books anymore, but we remember the days when we did. We use Google. And it turns out about 11% of all searches on Google are for other people. So that is an enormous trillions and trillions of searches annually happen just looking for other people for all kinds of reasons. At the end of the day, we're social animals. And so what happens when you search for your name and address, or your name and your city, or put in some specific information about you, like you might get a call from a cell phone and be interested in who's behind that cell phone number, or an email address that sent you something. Any of those searches, your name and your city, your specific personal information, when you do those searches, what comes up for the average person on the first page of Google is an enormous amount of these data brokers. And they come up in both the advertisements that Google presents and at the top of the page that are the most clicked on, and they come up in the organic search results further down the page. And they say things like, hey, get your, insert whoever we're talking about, Mark, get Mark's criminal background check. Look at all of Mark's cell phone and past address information. See Mark's, date of birth and, other court records about them. I mean, just, whatever they can think of to salaciously market to a potential buyer. And so what DeleteMe does is it goes out to each one of these data brokers that typically come up in Google searches for your name and your city, or your name and your address, and methodically asks those data brokers to opt you out of their entire database. And as you might suspect, these data brokers don't make it easy, and they don't follow any unified way to request removal from their database. And that's where the value of DeleteMe comes in. We have privacy advisors that are experts in doing this, and we have systems that help our privacy advisors do it very efficiently. So we can actually submit hundreds of variations of searches about your name, aliases of your name, your address, past addresses, phone numbers, past phone numbers, because you want complete coverage. Just removing one of these doesn't really help if it's still easy to find you. So DeleteMe is a service that really specializes in lowering your digital footprint.
Really interesting. And as a side note, Rob, I also Googled my name, as many of us have done. I even saw a page offering to share my net worth, which wasn't accurate. I wish it was. It was pretty high, but it's pretty scary what's out there. So who would you say DeleteMe is for exactly? Is it just for the average Joe, or is it for someone who's maybe more in the public spotlight?
We hope it's for everybody. Now, we charge $129 a year for our service, which we think is a good value, and we work hard to protect your privacy and keep these data brokers at bay all year long. But for those of us that can't afford to spend that kind of money on their privacy or don't want to, one thing that I think is important to mention is nothing we do is secret. In fact, if you go to our website, which is actually joindeleteme.com, on the top, right on the homepage, you'll see something called DIY Guide. And that's a do-it-yourself guide. And if you click on that, we tell you step-by-step how to remove yourself from each one of these data brokers for free.
Love that. We're going to continue learning about DeleteMe after this short break. We'll be right back.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out, everyone. Hope you're having a great weekend so far. We are chatting with Rob Chevelle. He is the co-founder and CEO of DeleteMe, a company that says it can remove your data for you from data brokers who are collecting and analyzing and often sharing or selling your personal information online for a profit, and of course not sharing any of that with you. Now, before the break, Rob, you were talking about ways to get going, including a free option at joindeleteme.com with several tips, but assuming our listeners want to hire you, what could they do?
We encourage anybody that that might want to try this or is hesitant to pay someone, anyone, whether it's DeleteMe or anyone else, to go try it themselves, and they can see what the effectiveness of opting themselves out of these data broker databases is. To answer your question directly, who's this for? We see two categories of customers. Obviously, we're a privacy company, so we tend not to track our customers, and we tend to, somewhat unfortunately for our business, know less about them than other companies do on purpose. But in general, what we've seen from surveys of our customers are two things. One, customers have had a specific privacy problem. For example, they got divorced, and somebody found out some information about the divorce that they didn't really feel should be in the public domain, or they bought and sold a house, and that got put into their net worth, like you mentioned. You were part of a net worth calculation. So there's or they were harassed by somebody online, or somebody found. An ex found them in an unwanted manner. So very specific things that they wanted to stop from happening. And then the other category of people are people that value privacy in general. They say, hey, look, I'd love to have less of my personal information easily to find and exposed out there on Google, but I don't have the time to deal with it. Is there sort of an easy button that I can press and experts that I can trust who will take care of that for me? And that really comprises the other half of our customers.
We're chatting with Rob Chevelle, co-founder and CEO of DeleteMe at joindeleteme.com, a company that can remove your personal data for you online for those searching for it. Now let's learn about new features like the custom removal request. What's that all about?
Yeah, so one of the things our customers have been asking for is help with questions related to their online privacy. They might find a link about them or specific information that contains their cell phone number, for example, on a website. And they want to know, hey, can I remove that? What do I need to do? Can you remove that? And so we created, as part of our service for no extra charge, the ability to make a custom request to one of our privacy advisors, and each of those requests will get assigned to a specific privacy advisor and attended to. It doesn't mean that we can remove everybody's requests from every source. That's impossible, and some sources of information are considered public record and can't be removed. But increasingly, the good news is that there are new laws being passed state by state, which give consumers more rights over their data and gives our privacy advisors more capabilities and more power to request deletions and removals on your behalf.
All right, so that's called custom removal request, one of the new features added to DeleteMe. How do you get going, by the way? I mean, do you first go to joindeleteme.com and sign up? And do you also scrape social media? Because I can see that being a big part of, even information that we're voluntarily sharing or oversharing. Do you also look there, or is that a different animal altogether?
Yeah, well, so first of all, on the social media side, these data brokers are scraping all of the information you put up on social media that's publicly accessible. So you really want to be careful to check your settings on your Twitter accounts, your Instagram accounts, your Facebook accounts to make sure that you're not leaving your public profile exposed with personal information. Because if you do, within hours, these data brokers will scrape it, and they will add it to the profiles that they have about you and that they sell to anyone that wants to pay them. Of course, not sharing any of that money with you. So I think the message on social media is you've got to be careful about what's out there, and you've got to look at your privacy settings. And that's what we tell our customers. In terms of how you get started with DeleteMe, it's very simple. You go to joindeleteme.com, sign up. The whole process averages about 4 to 5 minutes. You give us the information that we go search for, including your past addresses, past phone numbers and email addresses, alias variations of your name, and we go out and start the process as soon as you sign up. And what any customer should expect to get is, inside of a week, a first privacy report, which shows you exactly where we found your information and exactly where it is in the process of being removed. And you get, as a typical consumer, whether you're signing up for yourself or with a family member, is 4 privacy reports a year showing exactly where we found your information and where it was removed. And so, unlike services that protect your identity, that give you some kind of complicated score that, if you're like me, you're not sure how to understand it. All the privacy reports we give our customers are very, very concrete. They're very, very easy to understand, and they show you without a doubt that the service was working. And that's one reason I think why our customers like it so much.
And indeed they do. Is it true that there have been more than 20 million consumer opt-outs completed by DeleteMe?
Yep, that's right. In fact, I think we're over 30 million now. So the service is increasing in popularity, and I think that's both good news and bad news. It's good news for us, but it's also bad news in the sense that people are rightly more concerned, and there's more data being exposed about us, all of us, today than there ever was.
All right, as we wrap up, Rob, you said the cost $129 a year at joindeleteme.com for those reports, but I applaud you also for having some free tips as well on the website if people want to try it themselves. If people are busy, no doubt it's better to leave it to the professionals, and then you get those reports. Rob, thanks so much again. Rob Chevelle has been our guest from joindeleteme.com. All the best. Keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me. Stay private.
Stay private indeed. Speaking of which, when we return on Tech It Out in a couple of moments from now, we're going to learn about Stash Password Manager, which is both an app and an optional physical device as well to help keep you secure online. Speaking of being secure, don't forget to have regular backups of all your important files, especially if you're working from home. You want to safeguard all that important information. Pick up an inexpensive Western Digital or SanDisk external drive, whether it's a hard drive or an SSD, a solid state drive, and they work with free software that you can download from Western Digital or SanDisk that automates that backup for you, say in the middle of the night, just to protect your files from the myriad of threats out there. We'll be back shortly with more Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out, powered by ASUS. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, including its line of award-winning laptops, like its VivoBooks, its ZenBooks, Chromebooks, and ExpertBooks. Head over to asus.com/US/radio for more info. Most of what we do online requires a password, so just how are you managing them all? You're not? Well, hopefully you're not using the same password for everything, because if there is a data breach, the bad guys now have the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. Well, a company called Stash Password Manager has an app designed to simplify password management. Joining us on the line to explain what Stash is all about is Taj Gill, Director of Marketing and Growth at Stash Password Manager. Welcome to the show, Taj.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Hey, it's been said good technology solves a problem. So with that in mind, what would you say is wrong with how we are managing passwords today?
Yeah, so I think the biggest problem is that people don't really manage them, right? And that's the biggest challenge that people face is because everything requires a username and password, what they end up doing is just reusing their passwords, or they use a weak password like, their pet's name plus a number or something easy like that. Mm-hmm. And then they use it across all of their accounts. And the problem with that is if someone gains access to one of your passwords and they find out what it is, they can try that across multiple accounts and then access all your accounts essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's a difficult problem because everyone knows they shouldn't reuse their password, or they should use a strong password for every account they have, but they experience password fatigue, right? And they don't know how to manage all of them if they do actually use different passwords.
Sure. Yeah, good point. So even if you do have a really good password, like, I don't know, it's 12 characters long, uppercase, lowercase, special characters and all that, if you use that same password on all your online activity, if there is a breach, and even big guys have it, like, Yahoo is one that comes to mind, then the folks on the dark web now have access to all your other accounts. So there has to be a better way than jotting it down on a sticky note or trying to memorize long and complicated passwords that are different for all your online activity. So this brings us to Stash Password Manager. Tell us about it.
Right. So just as a general philosophy, we believe everyone should be using a password manager, right? It's going to allow them to use a different password for every account. And so for us, we created the solution, which is a Stash Password Manager app. And then there's also an advanced security piece called Stash Pass. But just really simply put, it's a safe and simple way for people to remember all of their usernames and passwords.
So do you manually load it up with, okay, so for my Facebook, this is my password, and for Gmail, this is my password, or does it generate passwords for you? Maybe you can walk us through kind of how it works.
Yeah, for sure. So it actually does both. If you are creating a new account somewhere or you need a new password, the app will actually generate a strong password for you. And then you can save the password and you don't ever have to remember it. If you already have passwords that say you have them written down somewhere or you're using them for your accounts, you can actually just type them into the app and save them there instead of on a piece of paper. And then we have an import feature that makes it easy for people if they're using a password manager for the first time or they're coming from a kind of a different solution that they were using. They can easily import their usernames and passwords over to us.
Okay, got it. And does Stash Password Manager also log you into those sites? Because I know it's an app, so assuming you're on your phone or your tablet and you have the Stash Password Manager installed, when you do go to, say, Twitter or whatever, does it type in that password for you automatically?
Yeah,
okay.
So that is a feature that's really up to the user they can enable. But yes, they can absolutely do that.
Okay, cool. So I've seen password managers over the years. There's a few big ones out there. What would you say separates Stash Password Manager from the other apps out there? So what would you say is unique about your solution?
Sure, yeah. So there's two things that make us unique. The other password managers that are out there, and this comes down to a kind of a personal preference for people, is a lot of the other password managers, what they're asking you to do is basically trust your usernames and passwords to them. So and what they do is they'll store them on their servers. That way you can access them from there. They're stored in the cloud, essentially. Mm-hmm. And the challenge with that is you don't know with confidence of if those passwords get out or if someone accesses them. You're not really sure if they're safe.
Got it.
To be honest.
So those password manager apps, that they themselves could be breached, like theoretically.
Correct.
Right? So
correct.
Okay, got it.
And so for us, what we were saying is, people just need a easy and secure way to manage their passwords, and they can have confidence in doing that themselves. So let's give them a tool to be able to manage their passwords on their own and not have to trust someone else. So we have two solutions. One is the app, which will securely store them encrypted on your device within the app, and you can access that at any time. And then our advanced security solution is called Stash Pass, which is the size of a credit card. So it's separate from your device, and you can actually load your passwords and usernames onto the Stash Pass. And the Stash Pass itself is actually never connected to the internet. And whenever you would need to pull up a password, you simply select it in the app. You would select the account, so say your Gmail account, and you would tap your card to your phone. And then at that point, the app will actually display that specific login for you. And so all of your passwords are never connected to the internet at any point.
It's almost like multi-factor authentication, right? It's like combine something which is your password, with something you have, like your phone. So this is also a physical item that also validates that it is you. It confirms it is you.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the two things that really differentiate us. And to really simplify it into one thing is that you are in control of your passwords. You don't have to trust them to anyone else, and you know that they're secure.
Got it. We'll continue chatting about the Stash Password Manager when we return on Tech It Out on the Radio America Network, and what makes it different from other password manager apps out there like LastPass and Dashlane and OnePass and RoboForm and so on and so forth. There's a lot of competition, so stick with us. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We're chatting with Taj Gill, Director of Marketing and Growth at Stash Password Manager. Now, before the break, Taj, we were talking about what makes it unique and how it fares against the likes of Dashlane and OnePass and LastPass and RoboForm. There's lots of competition. You talked to us about the optional physical component, as well as the fact that it does not store any of this information online. So with that in mind, one of the advantages, I guess, just to play devil's advocate for a moment, one of the advantages to having your password stored on a company's servers is that when you log in on a phone or you log in on the web, like on a computer, everything's synchronized. Is it fair to say then that with Stash Password Manager, that information is not synchronized?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, fair enough. And speaking of security, how secure is it? Does it have like bank level encryption or what have you? I'm assuming you need a master password to access the other ones. Is that right?
Yeah, so the other ones require a password manager. So the passwords are encrypted and they're using AES-128 encryption. And then the other piece of it with the additional, when I talk about the advanced security stash pass, which is the separate card, it's not connected to anything. When you initially set it up, you set it up so it only will work with your device. So even if you were to lose that stash pass, someone else was to pick it up, they wouldn't be able to access any of the information on it.
Is there an interface on this little credit card size thing? Like, is there a USB port or is it like wireless, like Bluetooth or NFC or something?
Yeah. So it's wireless. It uses NFC.
Got it. Okay. So near field communication, much like using your phone or your smartwatch to pay for something at retail, you just tap your device.
Exactly. So one difference with our device, with our card, there is a button on it. So when you do tap to your phone, you actually have to interact with that button. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the card is simply, it's a dead card, right? So unless you actually interact with the card itself, there's nothing to be read on there.
Very cool. Okay, got it. As we wrap up, Taj, how much does the Stash solution cost, both the software-only version as well as the physical key?
Right. So the app itself is a $3.99 a month subscription if someone would just want to go with the app. Then the Stash Pass is just a one-time purchase, $49.99.
Okay. And the best website to learn more about Stash Password Manager?
Yeah, the best website is our website, www.stashpass.co.
Okay, stashpass.co. So stashpass.co.
Yep, that's right.
All right. Taj Gill has been our guest, Director of Marketing and Growth at Stash Password Manager. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it as well.
For the remaining minutes of this weekend's new Tech It Out show, I wanted to invite you to say hi on social media. I'm online this weekend on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Yes, I have a personal life as well, but I do like to spend time on social media and chat with listeners of my show. So I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you're into these days, some ideas maybe for upcoming guests or topics you'd like me to tackle if you've got any tech questions and so on. So I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. It's Mark Saltzman, Mark with a C, so M-A-R-C, Saltzman, S-A-L-T-Z-M-A-N. And you'll see my tech tips of the day as well. If you want to follow me, especially on Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, I do write a tech tip of the day where I share a little piece of advice, something really accessible, something you can do that can make a big difference when you're working with your tech. So for example, one last week that I shared is for iPhone owners who wear a face mask and they have trouble logging into their device using Face ID. I explained how to unlock it using your Apple Watch. Really simple. So that's one of the tips I shared last week. Another tech tip is that if you are on a PC or a Mac, if you double left click the mouse button over a word, it highlights it for you. So you can then, right mouse click and copy it, or you can do a definition search. Or if you triple click on a word, it'll highlight the entire sentence or paragraph. How cool is that? I also shared some advice last week on how to stop robocalls. Another tip was how to save money. So for example, if you are downloading a Windows program and they want you to pay, say, $49 for it, go to uninstall it and the app will detect it in many cases and say, okay, how about $29 if you want a discount on it? So that kind of thing. If you think you can benefit from these tech tips of the day, saving you time, money, and aggravation, again, please feel free to follow me on social media. So I hope you enjoyed this weekend's brand new show. It was all tied to protecting you online. We first spoke about virtual private networks with NordVPN and what makes them different and how not all VPNs are created equal. Then we spoke with DeleteMe and how data brokers are selling your information for a profit and not sharing any of it with you, putting your information at risk as well. And then finally, Stash Password Manager for a clever way of coming up with new passwords, having that automated and signing you in and all that. So hope you enjoyed the program. We've got some great guests lined up for next week as well. We're going to talk gaming, gadgets, and a lot more. So looking forward to that, whether you're tuning in on your local radio station or in podcast form. I'm thrilled to have you along. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Saltzman. You're listening to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network. Looking forward to chatting with you next weekend. Bye-bye for now.